gates, let your soul become a song. Open the gates, let your spirit be born again, and we'll walk in the light of God. And we'll walk in the light of God.
And they recognized him in the breaking of the bread. There are a few more reassuring things than when we run into something that is very familiar to us, something that we recognize that makes us feel very much at home. Maybe we run into a friend that we knew from our childhood, and we begin sharing experiences of our youth and just feel so good about it. Maybe you take a drive back to the old neighborhood to see the house you were raised in, and there's just something very comforting about seeing that which is known. Maybe at home you've been cleaning up or organizing things, and you come across a souvenir of a familiar trip, a favorite trip, or a picture that evokes great memories. That stands in contrast to dealing with that which is unfamiliar, that which we do not know, a path that is uncertain, a direction that we are headed in which we don't have anything in our background to guide us. That sense of being disorientated, of dealing with the unfamiliar, is very much in the air these days as we deal with the realities of stay-at-home directives and quarantines. We think of these things so unusual. You know, last week when I was preparing for Holy Week, I was reading through all the directives of the Vatican on how to handle the services, and after I read them, I said to myself, you know, how can you have Palm Sunday with no palms, Holy Thursday with no Eucharistic procession, no veneration of the cross on Good Friday, no reception of the catechumens on Holy Saturday, Easter Sunday with no people? We've all had to adapt to new phrases, a whole new vocabulary that's emerging. You know, Father, forgive me for I have sinned. I've been watching too much news. But I was listening to some of the words that all of a sudden, you know, are part of the way we speak that we wouldn't have said to each other 6 weeks ago. If someone 6 weeks ago said to me, don't forget we're Zooming at 11 o'clock and don't forget your password, I would have had no idea what they were talking about. Someone said to you, you know, I was in Heinen's yesterday and there was this man who was not observing social distancing. 6 weeks ago, I would have said, you know, he's in the store buying a tomato. What is he supposed to do? Someone says, you know, if we all work together, if we're all committed, we're going to flatten that curve. What would have that meant 6 weeks ago? Or once we get to the apex, the worst will be behind us. A very good friend of mine, a high school buddy of mine, he sent me a Easter basket last week, and in the basket were 2 rolls of toilet paper, a bottle of Purell, and some face masks. Well, if I had gotten a basket like that last year, I would have called his wife Rosie and said, you know, is Tom okay? Things have changed. But the power of this Holy Week and Easter is even though everything's been changed in many ways, there's been a power to the simplicity of hearing again the story of our Lord's passion, death, and resurrection. In its starkness, there is tremendous power that our God so loved the world that he gave us his only Son. And though we are watching the Eucharist, we're not in the church, when the bread is broken and the cup is shared, he is with us. Once again, the living Christ in our midst. He has not abandoned us in this time of trial and challenge, but comes to us through his mercy, his love, his reassurance, his care for us. And while the first disciples were very disorientated in the aftermath of the crucifixion and the Lord's death, gradually they were encountering the risen Christ. And it was in the breaking of the bread that their eyes were opened and they saw him standing before them. Pray that our Easter will have many of those kind of moments when in the breaking of the bread and in the sharing of the cup, we will realize again and again and again that he is with us. He loves us. He affirms us. That is the most familiar foundation of the faith community, that when the bread is broken, the Lord is in our midst. May this Easter season affirm all of us, reminding us of how much the Lord loves us. And through the breaking of the bread and the sharing of the cup, he enters our hearts again and again and again.